To follow the last video I made, there were tons of you in my comment section with many suggestions of your own as to why certain characters belong in certain Undertale Human Soul categories as decent contenders to my choices, or characters who are straight up more fitting than my list of selections. My opinions of that video have not changed, but since the video concept itself was fun to do, I wanted to give you guys my opinion on where mostly every character in the Blue Lock series fits in terms of the Undertale Soul primary traits. And in this video, we will also be including the Monster Soul of Hope to give us more options. Disclaimer before you watch this video, quite a few of my opinions are flexible this time round, so if you have suggestions to characters where I vocalize I'm verbally unsure about where I put them, be sure to make your case on where those characters would best fit, because this isn't an easy video to do right off the top of my head surprisingly. And if you do enjoy this type of content and want to see more, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more content like this. I found this topic so fun to cover, so thank you all for the support on my last video, in which allowed me to do a follow-up video as soon as possible. Anyway, let's transition over to the list recording. Alright, let's get started with these rankings. Realistically, in my opinion, the characters are currently off screen for you guys, but let's get started. Archer, I want to put in integrity. I believe he stays very true and honest to himself ever since his return to Zero. He's also quite the open book. He will give it to you as it is. He actually does represent like some other traits, like he does represent patience more in his current dribbling style, is quite a determined individual, but I think integrity speaks out to him a lot more. Kunigami, I've already said he's justice. I put him in justice in my actual Blue Lock video when first talking about this topic. He is the representation of justice, aside from characters like Ego, I don't know, maybe some other characters that I'm forgetting, but we'll get to them. Shigidi is bravery. He's the representation of bravery. Of course, there's other contenders for bravery, but I feel like he stands out as amongst the most brave in the series. Battling through an injury and also some psychological damage because of that injury. Every game is a risk on your career. Yeah, that stands out to me. Next up is Raichi, and I think I want to put him... It was integrity for me. I'm gonna put him integrity. Subject to change. He's also a character that gives it to you as it is. He's very honest to himself and honest to others around him about what he wants to do, what he wants to aspire to be. Galgamaru, I want to put him in kindness. I believe he's amongst one of the nicer Blue Lock characters. He's very communicative. Generally speaking, it's better to actually talk about him, better to have a conversation with him than most characters, because he doesn't want to cause a scene. He doesn't want to get on people's nerves. He is willing to fight for his teammates. I know that for sure. Speaking of which, he's befriended a bear. I feel like that qualifies for something. Then we have Naruhaya. I believe Naruhaya wanted to adapt. He wanted to be like Isagi. He wanted to change himself to become better, but unfortunately it failed. And I believe he represents perseverance because of that, but it never really succeeded in his eyes. I don't know, like, it's always a toss-up because Determined and Perseverance have very similar traits, but as I said, Determined is much more of a restricted-based trait, whilst Perseverance is a much more freedom-based trait. Like, the freedom to actually evolve and adapt to the environment around you is much more Perseverance. Determined is much more secluded. You're bound by the rules around you, and that's why I put Rin in Determined for my video and Isagi and Perseverance. Read up on the definitions if you don't agree with me, and then come back to this video. But I've given the definitions within the video, and people still thought that like Isagi and Rin weren't the best people for those categories. And I believe they embody it the most. They embody it the most out of anyone. Huon, I believe he's hope. He hoped for a lot of things, and it never really turned out his way. He hoped for a better team during his high school games. He hoped that people would actually get along with him, but then he learned to not rely on anyone. So he just kind of like sat there hoping that things would go his way. And every other quality just doesn't stand out to him because he's never showed any sort of willingness to grow individually. He doesn't represent any sort of integrity, kindness, because both of those things were fake. His own version of justice is very unfair. Even Ego said he's the lowest of the low. And bravery, no, he's a straight coward. So hope is the best thing that could fit for him. Then we have Imamura. Imamura also seems hopeful, chasing down a girl, trying to pursue like a really pretty girl of your dreams, whatever. I feel like that's very hopeful for him, especially for him because he's not relevant. Ilmon, I want to give props to Ilmon because I really like him. I feel like Ilmon's kindness, though, like willingness to be in goalie, like non-debate, he's shown no other characteristics other than being kind and having this determination. Unlike Gargamaru, I feel like most goalkeepers are determined-based individuals. Maybe. I don't know. Is Gargamaru considered like a restricted base player? I guess you can be like a restricted base player if you're a goalie. This comes into the argument of like what most positions are. What the positions are most freedom or restriction. For now, Ilmon is in kindness. Kira, where would Kira go? This is one that's going to actually be relevant because he's coming back to the story. Whether or not he has a personality change is uncertain. So where are we gonna put him? Can't be. No integrity, stop patience. I believe for now I'm going to put Kira in like a semblance of justice because I mean it's more so like his own variation of justice, right? He was eliminated from Blue Lock knowing that he was the best player within his section. He's coming back. It goes against Ego's form of justice, his own form of like what you're supposed to prove. But Kira's coming back with his own kind of justice in a way, like returning to Blue Lock and actually proving to everyone that he is the shit, that he's actually good. He was just unfairly eliminated. Baru, I put him as the definition of integrity. So I don't have to explain myself. I explained myself in the last video. Nico, I put him as the definition of patience. I believe falling under that category is the fact that he's a defender. He has to take time in order to analyze attacking patterns, attacking formations, pushes, and players' weapons in order to shut them down. He's a watchtower. The watchtower is basically like stagnant until the moment gets dire, and he approaches that very methodically. So I believe he represents patience very well. Okawa, some of these characters are like so obscure that it's hard to even give them any sort of category. A lot of irrelevant characters are also just kind of Hope because they never stood a chance to begin with. But let me know what you guys think. Hope is like an empty category, if being honest. Like unless we get to like the actual representations of Hope. By the way, I didn't cover Hope in the last video because I wanted to leave that open for other people to say whether or not characters fit or not. Also because it's a monster soul, not a human soul. So Hope is very much it's kind of like an NA category, unless I say otherwise. And then we have the Wanama Bros, who I feel like this is how it's supposed to be. I feel like this Wanama Bro acknowledges that his brother is way better, and this brother's persevered through that. Now we're on to Nagi Seishiro. This gets interesting because I sort of argued his case for quite a few of these. Do I think he's like perseverance? Do I think he's determined? Do I think he's brave? I don't know, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure. Nagi has had a lot of time actually learn patience. He's not true and honest to himself. He's gone back on his word quite a few times. Even so, he's not honest to those around him because he's going back through the shortcut of Blue Lock, and that's the same case with patience. That's just like not what he represents at all. But adapting to the environments around him has not been his style. Like he's evolved and grown his own abilities, so I'm pretty sure he's determined. He's a very determined based character. And then there's Reo, who I believe he fits perseverance very well. He is a freedom-based player, after all. I feel like he fits perseverance much more. Okay, Zantetsu, I feel like he could actually be argued for integrity. Yeah, you know what? His whole belief system of like people who call him dumb are the dumb ones, and sort of like this honesty regarding like what he needs to do. He's admitted that he wants help, etc. I believe he's a very integrity-based person. Are you? I thought about this to myself, and I was just like, is Are kindness? Because he can appreciate someone when they're really good. I can't like think of where else he would go. I don't think he's like brave. When you tackle his insecurities, he is trying to like hide them, you know, block them out as much as possible instead of facing the facts. But I'm going to put him in kindness. Fukimitsu, I'm going to put in hope, definitely. He needed a lot of hope in order to make it out of the many situations he's had to be in ever since leading up to like him being eliminated, because his social anxiety was the biggest like factor, or his anxiety in general was the biggest factor into why he could never evolve as a player. It was his biggest issue. It was his biggest flaw, and he never really got past that through none of these traits. And I feel like he was just holding on to hope that he could just stick it out. He could just barely survive, you know, through his current skill, and that never worked. That didn't work out for him. Luna. Oh god, we don't know much about like the World 5 aside from Loki. Luna to me seems... Could he be Patience? I don't think... I'm going to put him in Patience for now. Maybe that's subject to change. Let me know what you guys think. World 5 is kind of complex. Adam Blake is... I feel like Integrity fits Adam Blake. Dada Silva. They're true and honest to themselves. I don't think they manipulate. I don't think that that's really their style. They have their own beliefs. They have their own reasons to play, and that's what they play for. Luna's a bit more complicated because he definitely has demons in his closet, you know? He's the kind of character who you know has demons in his closet. Then we have Pablo, who wants to be the cutest football player, or 23-year-old, or whatever. You know, his only rival is Pikachu, but where would that put him? Where would that put him? Is that another, like, being honest to yourself? Integrity may be the most popular one because it's very much an outing for anyone who's a little bit more relevant and has their own ideals in which they strive for and don't lie to themselves along the way about. He may be Integrity. Subject to change. And of course, if you guys disagree with me on those ones, I do not blame you. I'm just reading into this much less with less time. Cheeto, I debated him in being either in like integrity or bravery. And I believe he is much more brave. Like, he's faced less adversity, but I assume he's going to face more adversity later down the line. And he's a bravery-based character with, like, the wild shit that he has to do, the wild shit that he has to face and overcome. And due to his atomy, he is way more capable than most people. He hasn't had to overcome a fear. And I feel like that has to happen at some point, even regarding his backstory or maybe the next stage in his evolution. I'm not sure how they want to go about evolving Shido. That gets a little bit more complicated. Then we have Karasu, who I think either goes in patience or perseverance. I think he's represented less of patience whenever he's playing against like a really difficult team. I think I'm going to put him in perseverance. I think he's within that same category. A lot of Metavision users are going to naturally be more perseverance based than determination based, as I've already said, because of the freedom style. But maybe Karasu's a bit more of a restriction-based player. Who knows? That's a video for another day, really. Next up, we have Atoya. And I think Atoya is quite true to himself. I don't think he represents any sort of these qualities. Patience, no. Kindness, no. Justice, no. He doesn't really stand by any sort of justice. Bravery, no. Determined, maybe. But I feel like integrity is the safest spot for him. Yukimiya. People were arguing, like, Yukimiya is perseverance more so than determination, and I thought, why? He can't really adapt to the situation he's in. He's going to become blind, and that in itself is, like, step one of why he isn't in perseverance. And then step two is the fact of, like, Yukimiya hasn't really adapted, and not to mention, he has given up through his paths. Determination is very much a not give up kind of situation, but perseverance, I believe, is more so than that, because determination allows for that sort of flexibility, like you come back from the depths and given that opportunity. I believe Nagi and Yukimiya being in determination is also very fitting, considering those were the two individuals who were within that discussion of scoring impossible goals. Nagi actually scored his impossible goal, whilst Yukimiya failed in scoring his impossible goal, thankfully, because of Chris Prince's interference. I don't know. It's an arguable debate, but I believe Yukimiya is a much more determined individual, like determined to do things as fast as possible. I don't think he stays true to himself. His pacifist nature has definitely shown some flaws because he is very much an aggressive individual when his ideals are being challenged so heavily. And also, I believe he's much more of a restriction-based player because of his blindness. Maybe that's just me. I put Hyori in the debate of patience, and I believe I'm going to stick him there anyway, but he could also be argued for perseverance. I mean, anyone with Metavision can be argued for perseverance. These two can easily be down there for adapting to the environments around them. Yuri, for me, seems like a much more talented freedom-based player. Reo can also be argued with that fact because of his ability, but he's always been labeled as a talented learner, even by ego standards. Shido just gave him the props of, like, this is a talented learner. This is a person who thinks like a talented learner who has a genius-based weapon, which gets into the topic of, like, hybrid genius and talented learner, which applies to some characters. Nanase, I'm going to put him in kindness. I feel like he's definitely the definition of kindness. He's shown to be the most, like, understanding, thought out, and appreciative of people around him. Kiora. Did I want to put Kiora? Justice? because of his own ideals, because of his own ego, like being on the borderline, he wants to favor the underdogs. And I feel like that in itself is very justice-based. I don't know. What do you guys think? I believe it fits. Kurna, I believe Kurna displays a lot of kindness, so we're going to put him there. I don't think he wants to get on anyone's nerves, and not to mention, he is adorable. So I'm going to put him in kindness. And for the Messi of Aomori, we got to put him in patience, considering how long we have to wait for this dude to do anything. And of course, he was eliminated. He's like the only character in which doesn't have like an established personality that I was willing to rank because of the fact that we had to wait so long for Messi of Aomori to do anything. Oh no, he's definitely like the definition of hope. We hoped for him to actually do something. But he can be patient as well, because we had to wait like a long time for him. It's nothing to do with his character, it's all to do with our perspectives of the character. And then Hiragi. How would I put Hiragi? I don't think he's integrity. I think he has his own manipulative tactics. Tarot cards in itself is a very dodgy subject. Not everyone believes in tarot cards like authentication. Can't exactly prove that tarot cards are real, but his predictions have been pretty solid. I'm gonna put him in patience for the mere fact that like tarot cards may come true in terms of long-term reach. Like Baro, Chigiri, and Nagi have all had tarot cards. Nagi's one has come true as far as we're aware, but he of course needs to find his way out of it. And then Chigiri and Baro's ones are still up in the air. We're gonna be waiting. We're gonna be waiting on a lot of it. Himizu, God. Himizu's just kind of a twat. he's had that, of course, off-putting backstory. His aura stakes and masks. I don't know where to put him. Really, he's one of those weird characters. I feel like can't put him integrity. I don't think he's like. I think he's that. Doesn't really show any sort of other qualities. I'm going to put him in hope. Let me know what you guys think of that one, because like I don't really know. He's a really complex character, but I want you guys to give your justifications and like arguments to each of these choices. Of course, the only ones that I'm stern with are like the ones that represent the categories that I chose for the video. So far, we have Chigiri, Kunigami, Nanase, Nico, Baru. So we're missing like the determination and patience category and like the true definition of hope, in which I'd never really decided on. Sai, I believe, is okay, he has his own way of playing, but he's not it's not like adaption and overcome, right? Is he? Is he not? Maybe. I believe right now I'm going to put him in determination alongside his brother. I feel like that makes sense. Could be perseverance, but I've never seen him adapt and overcome, so for now he's determination. Aiku's been like argued for like kindness, patience because he's a defender. I think he has like his own representation of justice as well. He is the last barrier before Blue Lock truly blossoms. I don't know, someone could probably explain it way better than I can, but I believe he represents justice quite well. He's fair. He's a very fair individual. Like, he doesn't show any integrity qualities because, like, part of having integrity is to be honest with other people. And, of course, he's not honest with his two girlfriends. Next up is Sendo, and I believe Sendo is very much integrity-based. Fukaku, as, like, the only other relevant character from the U20 game, how would I put him? Some sort of, like, level of, I'm just gonna put him in hope. A lot of the characters in which I just don't know too much will go in hope, but I'm thinking, like, he could also be, like, bravery, maybe? Igaguri. Igaguri was, like, one of the most popular comments in regards to where he goes in my comment section. People kept saying, perseverance. Igaguri's perseverance, yada yada yada. Here's my debate on Igaguri, right? Get through Blue Lock by using others more so than Isagi ever would. Because Isagi used others to the point of where he could learn from them. Igaguri kept to his skills, he kept to his skill set, and kept using individuals, never to grow, but just enough to get through. Is that perseverance? I don't think so. I think, overall, my debate is either determination or hope. And I feel like I need to instill this in people's brains, why he's not perseverance. Perseverance is a very willing to adapt or adaptable quality. I mean, the fact that I have one of them there probably off-puts it. Wait a sec, let me just... Look, maybe that makes more sense. Naruhaya had a willingness to adapt, but couldn't. Brasu has a willingness to adapt, but, of course, has a lack of self-confidence in his own talents, because he doesn't have any. He's a very talentless person, as he self-admitted in the episode Naki Manga. And Reo, self-explanatory. His whole thing was like fouling people, and people want to give him credit for having perseverance, but man is definitely like a determined bass player, because he changed nothing about himself to get to the point where he's at, and pretty much accomplishing the impossible. We all thought that Igaguri would be eliminated in the second selection, and then we all thought that Igaguri would not even stand a chance in the NEL, and like he got onto the pitch and then was actually doing some shit, and it was like, that was pretty much defying against the impossible. I'm going to put Igaguri in determination, because he made it so far with such limited skill from his own like stride and strength to actually get through and not go back to his temple to uphold his family's responsibilities and duties. I believe he fits there very well. Rin, I put him as the definition of determination. Noah. No one likes him. No one likes him. Admittedly, I don't dislike him. I think he has a lot of character potential. Whether or not like that's fleshed out with Ego's backstory, whether or not they want to do Ego's backstory or not is up to Kaneshiro. But Noah grew up in poverty in France, and football was his only way out. I think I need to be heard out on this one. Why I think he's justice. It's not because he fits any sort of like definition of justice that we believe in, but he's definitely not kind. Bravery, like he is brave, but we can't really say that that's the defining feature of his entire character. I believe justice falls into the category of having the opposite justice system to Ego, because there's multiple interpretations of what justice is, and for Noah, he probably feels kind of like the underdog. He came out of poverty with only a football and became the world's best striker, probably in a world where a character like Loki, for example, would be better than him. And it hasn't been established whether or not like Noah is a talented learner or genius-based character. People, of course, would say genius first and foremost, but if he's being actively challenged by Loki, who is only 17, it becomes a bit more of a toss-up, in my opinion, because he's under threat by a 17-year-old who has such immense talent, and not to mention, he couldn't actually beat Loki in the match-offs in which they had, I guess, or the situations they had with Massive Munich versus PXG. Up for debate, basically. But he has his own interpretation of what's right to do in order for the benefit of the football world. And he probably does see a little bit eye to eye with Ego. That's probably why he took part in this project, not only to evolve Kaiser, but to see Ego's own interpretation of justice and see what elements have stayed true to him or changed throughout time. And if I was going to put Noah anywhere else, I wouldn't know where to put him. He's not integrity, because I don't think he's honest and true to himself with the sort of routes he's taken. Perseverance? No. Like, he wants to evolve people, but I don't think he's changed to the environments around him. He very much has natural talent, but whether or not he's the majority of talent over a sort of work hard individual. He's worked hard to be in the position that he's in, so he could be argued for determination. So, pick or choose. I'm going to put him in justice for now. I feel like you could chop a lot of these characters up to having their own interpretation of justice, so it seems kind of like a cop-out. For someone that's been so close to Ego, who started from literally the bottom of the barrel himself to work his way up, kind of like what Ego wants to do with like Isagi, for example, who starts very, very close to the bottom of the barrel and is now known as like second or even tied for first best player in Blue Lock. But that's just my interpretation, that's just how I see it. And I spent a long time talking about Noah. Let's talk about Michael Kaiser. This is where it gets tricky, because Kaiser has done a lot of things to where I don't agree with the fact that he is justice, he's integrity, definitely not patient or kind. I think he's determination. I feel like this very well fits with the fact of all the other characters there. I feel like he's very determination based. Whether or not that really... It could also be bravery. I argued for him being brave, but he has a lot of things he has to still overcome in time. He has a lot of things to, he needs to push past. We'll see what happens with him. He may develop on like his bravery traits, but right now he seems like a wildly determined individual to fight against the geniuses. It became much more possible when working with Isagi. Like Ness's perseverance, right? Perseverance? What do we think? Like, do we think Ness is perseverance, or maybe Ness is like determination? Like, I've seen like some people also argue that Kaiser's perseverance. I don't think his adaptable qualities stand out, because when he had to return to 0 and score his goal, what was the next step for him? To become a machine for goals, to quite literally have no sort of attachment or affiliation, and he couldn't get over that. He couldn't get over the fact that he was having so much fun playing with Isagi, and he couldn't really get past that to be an emotionless goal-scoring machine. So I don't think he fits perseverance as much. Ness, on the other hand, he has showed a lot of perseverance in the final moments of the match, willing to actually change and overcome his own barriers, try and favor Kaiser, but unintentionally favored Isagi. Lavinho, I think he's integrity. Chris Prince, kindness or justice? Like, because he has his own to the future thing, I feel like I'm going to put him in kindness. And Agi is patience. I don't think I have to really talk about that. I know Agi the most out of most people because he's my favorite character. It'd be kind of disrespectful if I didn't know so much about him. But patience is very much a front quality in which he's displayed. Of course he's patient. He had to wait for Nagi to realize his own talent was worth doing with his methods and not Ryo's method. And that never actually paid off for him. The amount of patience he's had in order to try and see if Nagi would ever realize is immense. Not to mention, he's a very tactical player, and I believe he's one of those individuals who plays upfield and doesn't actually go for goals himself. He wants to solely focus on the imagination and the inspiration of a play and be part of that quality aspect. Low-key, where would he be? Where would he be? I saw like a Reddit post when I was researching my last video. Surprisingly, someone wanted to talk about this, but of course it didn't receive much traction. And like one of the comments said patience, and I was like, how can he be patient? You think about it, and it's kind of like, yeah, maybe, but like every character has some semblance of patience, right? As long as they're not too impulsive. He's speed. He doesn't really need the time for patience. I don't know. Maybe it's up for debate. I don't know. I think I'm going to put him in integrity because this is one of those characters in which you can't really decide whether or not he represents a source of integrity. And I don't think Loki's ever lied. He's never been the conniving type. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain how Loki is just... He's not like Luna. He's not like Luna in that way. He has probably a very base standard personality type on the surface than Luna. So, no, I'm going to keep him in integrity because I really just don't know too much. Snuffy, like, people say kindness. Like, fair enough, but I don't think he's kindness. I think he faces a lot of adversity and has to overcome it, overcome his traumas through bravery. Especially after Baru kind of reopened his eyes. And like I said in my video, it's not about how you get there, it's about getting there anyway. And he's faced a integral, defining moment where he had to overcome one of his traumas in order to play again, in order to, play for himself and represent Ubers and be their leader. And I believe that's a very bravery-based trait because, like, even though Baru was the catalyst to him becoming much more of a brave individual, and of course not even factoring in the bravery he had to deal with when his partner offed himself. I can't say kill. I feel like he fits bravery, but he could also be debated for like justice because he has his own system, but I believe that system is going to be like put to the shelf when Don Lorenzo takes over. And Don Lorenzo, I said, was the definition of kindness in my video. Of course, it's like interchangeable between Nanase and Lorenzo because Nanase is like much more base standard kind, whilst Lorenzo is much more like deep-rooted kind. On the surface, you would see Isagi as a nice individual, but when you get into the heat of the game, that's when Isagi starts showing a little bit more aggressive colors. Nalase is probably like a very lesser extent of that, but he shows kindness on the surface and just has a very like game face. Lorenzo is kind of like, he's a not bothered individual. He doesn't really change no matter the situation he's in. Well, so far at least. Then we have Charles, who I'm going to put in integrity. I'm not sure how debatable that is, but I believe he fits amongst like the top of integrity. He's very honest about what he wants to do and what he wants to get done. He's quite lazy in his own way. Like, he doesn't want to do things in which doesn't excite him, which is fair. Bunny. This gets tricky. This gets really tricky. How would I put Bunny? Because Bunny hasn't got a lot on him, but what we do know is that he is clearly mentally unwell. Do I say like he's determination? I'm going to say like for now, I can't see him being integrity. I could probably see him being perseverance. Or maybe like he's too much of a genius for perseverance. But Sai is there, and I feel like Sai is the only one to actually get him. So I guess I will have to put him in determination for now. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I say that for a lot of characters, but like really it becomes a lot more difficult when we're restricted to these categories. Nazi is like he's the definition of hope. But like people are going to argue he's determined, he perseveres, he's very integrity based, blah 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 blah. I don't know. I don't think so. I think he is the true definition of hope. Aside from like maybe Henri, I don't know. I just think like overall, what I think about Onazi is that he is the hope for Nigeria's team. He's going to be the definition of hope for his country. You know, that whole "I am here" kind of thing. Is very All Might coded, and All Might is very like the embodiment of like his own justice and hope. But I don't think Onazi has he doesn't have like a piece of justice to comment on. Whether or not that will change, I don't know. But right now, he's definitely the representation of hope for his country. Kuso is, I feel like he's determination or perseverance. I feel he's had moments where he needed to face the facts, right? I'm gonna put him in determination. And then it comes down to like the two Nigeria characters that I keep forgetting the names of. But of course there's not much on these characters, so I think I'm going to place them like hope alongside Nazi. And this is not me saying that they are hope. This is me saying I lack the information to put them anywhere else because they haven't got as established personalities as Kuso and Onazi. But you guys can let me know if they fit in other places more. And finally, as the definition of perseverance is Isugi. And that's all the relevant characters. Of course, Ego would be Injustice. I've already talked about this. So if you're missing him, he will be Injustice, right? This is me vocally saying that he is the person to go Injustice. Then for Henri, I think I would put her Hope. I put her in Hope. But she's also quite perseverance-based. She's had to change a lot in order to overcome adversity on multiple occasions. But yeah, I feel like that's my list. Yeah, this was basically part 2 of the Undertale Souls, and I don't know whether or not I will return to this, but I hope you all can agree with my list. And I tried to like make adjustments to what people said in the comments, giving their reasonings and whatever. But of course, whoever's in the first slot of the tier list is who I perceive as the representation of these personality traits, these dominant soul personality traits. And yeah, you guys can let me know whether or not you agree or disagree, and so on. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And of course, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. All support is greatly appreciated. It was really fun doing this. It felt like a lot different compared to the normal content that I do. I feel like we're missing that nowadays. We're missing a lot of more creatively influenced content. We should get back on track to doing content like this. Anyway, I've got some big videos planned, so I hope you all stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, peace.